Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Shorty September, ongoing BookTube event for the month of September that concentrates on shorter works, books with fewer than 200 or 250 pages, something like that. I love these things, but I admit that my own preference is towards much, much bigger books, longer books. But nevertheless, for Shorty September, I wanted to buck against that trend and not only read a bunch of short books, or reread in my case, a bunch of short books in September, but also pick books that were very short, the opposite end of the spectrum. So 100 pages, something like that, or fewer. And today, last night, I reread something that I haven't read, 30 years since it came out, that I really, really enjoyed. I enjoy it more every time I read it. It is probably just about under 200 pages, so it's probably the longest thing I'm going to read for Shorty September. But I like it more and more, despite the fact that, that it doesn't do a good job of what it's trying to do, and also that I don't like the author. It's just kind of weird. This is An Imaginary Life by David Malouf, who has never written anything that I have enjoyed other than this book. And I'm wondering if maybe part of the enjoyment of this book isn't the subject matter. This is a novel about the Roman poet Ovid, who is the author of my favorite book, and who led a fascinating life, and that life ended in years and years of misery in exile far from his beloved Rome. And this book takes place then. It takes place in Ovid's exile. And Malouf is doing something here that is meant to echo not Ovid's life, what we can reconstruct of it, but rather Ovid's great poem, The Metamorphoses, where things are shifting and changing from one thing to another, and where Ovid adopts a narrative strategy that very much reflects that Quicksilver feel, that feel of you don't quite know where to plant your feet. One story morphs into another. Storytellers morph into other storytellers, so that deep in the midst of one cluster of stories, you'll have a hard time remembering who's talking to who about what. And it's a very, in Ovid, it's a very entrancing reading experience. And that's what Malouf is going for here a lot in this book, which is not long. It's not long. I don't think it's entirely successful, but I like it a lot. Every time I reread it, I read it last night, I was reminded of lots and lots of the details that we have of Ovid's exile, all of which comes from Ovid himself, who wrote endlessly while he was in exile, begging and pleading to come back to Rome, and also venting his artistic temperament. He couldn't stop being creative, even though he was in exile, around people whose language he barely knew. Not only was I enjoying that, but I was also reminded, as I am every time I reread this book, that there is no great novel of Ovid in English that I know of, which is really confusing to me. He led a fascinating life. You would think that there would be. If there is one, I don't know of it. This is the closest that we come. And this is not a novel of Ovid's life. This is not a novel of when he had Rome at his feet, when everyone on every street corner was singing one of his poems, when he had entree to the greatest people in the land. This is not a novel of that. That's only captured in little wisps and fragments here and there in this book. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this Shorty September entry. This is not a long novel at all, especially not for me, but I'm going to go even shorter tonight. If I pick something for Shorty September tonight, it's going to be even shorter than this. But this is definitely a recommend. I think you would enjoy it, even if you don't know anything about Ovid. I think you would. So there you go. A nice short video for Shorty September. An Imaginary Life. A novel about the Roman poet Ovid. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.